Hello everyone. Now, settle in. It's time for Malcolm, the Boy Who Can Talk to Dogs by Karen Bayley, read by me, Joe Lycett. Chapter 1. Hello, my name is Malcolm, and I can talk to dogs. Well, not talk, that's an internet company. Or like Dr. Dolittle, you know, that weird bloke in a film who chatted to llamas. I always wondered about his name, Dolittle. He wasn't really doing a little, was he? Talking to animals is pretty amazing. He was actually doing quite a lot. Dr. Do-Lot. Nor do I mean talk to animals like Harry Potter, who could talk to snakes. I've only seen a snake once in a zoo, and he was asleep. Why would a snake want to talk to me? A chubby boy on a school trip, wearing a cagoule, eating tomato ketchup sandwiches? Let's be honest, most snakes must get really hacked off. Loads of snotty-nosed kids tapping the glass, trying to get them to wake up. If snakes could talk to me, I'm sure they'd use language my mum would call potty-mouthed. Hiss off! Suppose I should introduce myself. Firstly, my name, Malcolm Murray. I hate my name. I don't mind the Murray bit, but Malcolm. If I could, I'd climb into a time machine, go back in time, find my parents' baby naming book, and rip out all of the M's. However, they didn't use a baby naming book. Nope. Mum wanted to wait until I was born to see what I looked like and then decide. So, after hours of sweating, cussing, and pushing, I was delivered into this world, a screaming red and blue blotchy mess. Mum took one look at me and said, "Oh, he looks like a Malcolm." Go figure. Malcolm. Was that the best she could come up with? Maybe she was punishing me for a difficult birth. Maybe that's why I'm an only child. I have spent ages trying to find myself a nickname. Here's some of my failed efforts. Malk. This is me at school. Hey guys, from now on, I want to be called Malk. Tom, class bully. Malk? Malk, smells of talc. For those of you who don't know what talc is, it's sickly sweet white powdery stuff that grannies throw over themselves after they've had a bath. A bit like baby powder, old lady powder. I had to ask my mum this, so it doesn't really work as an insult. You can't insult someone and then they have to Google it. A rubbish rhyme, but to be fair to Tom, there are not many words that rhyme with Malk. Try it, see. And I bet he doesn't know what talc means. Other nickname, Mel. Me, at school again. Hey guys, from now on, I want to be called Mel. Tom, still the class bully. Mel? Mel, you smell. Me. Well, at least I don't smell of talc. Tom. Mel or Malk, you smell of talc. Damn him and his rhyming. Another nickname, M&M. Bear with me on this one. This is my DJ name. My first name and surname both begin with M. So, M&M. Clever, isn't it? Me, at school. Okay, I don't really socialise anywhere else. Hey guys, from now on, I want to be called M&M. Tom, the rhyming bully. What, like the sweets? M&M? Who'd eat them? Me, losing my temper. Okay, Malcolm, it's Malcolm. Call me Malcolm. Try and rhyme something with that, you annoying little git. Tom. Easy. Moody, messy Malcolm. Mardy, mouldy, mad Malcolm. Wow. Not rhyming, but alliterative insults. A note for any teachers who may be reading this book. You may think you're doing us a favour, teaching us all these techniques in literacy hour, rhyming, metaphors, similes, blah, blah, blah. No, no, no. What you're doing is providing school bullies more imaginative ways to bully us. Thanks a lot. Oh, and here's a simile for you, Mrs. Bull, the English teacher. Your lessons are like a long hot day in the desert with no water. Impossible to get through. Now, I guess I should explain the dog thing. It's not that I can talk to them in the conventional sense. If I did that, people would think I was barking mad. Barking! Ha! See what I did there? I suppose it's a bit like mind reading. The best way I can describe it is like receiving a text message in my brain, and then I send one back. This all started when I was out with my Uncle George. Uncle George is great fun, but has one massive fault. He's really tight. He will do anything to avoid spending money, absolutely anything. Yes, he's the man that puts buttons in charity tins. You know those kind of people who mark the coffee jar at work? My mum told me a bloke at her work would get a felt tip pen, and every time he took a spoonful out of his jar, he would mark the level so that people couldn't nick any. Well, Uncle George would count the coffee granules if he could count that high. Yes, he's that tight. He reuses tea bags so many times that your tea just tastes of milk. When he opens his wallet, it creaks. There are even rumours that he's got a £1 note in there. That is really, really old money. Uncle George has a dog, Curtis. Curtis is a Staffordshire Bull Terrier. He's getting on a bit now and smells of cabbage, but he's very friendly. The two of them are inseparable. Now, as every good dog owner knows, when you take your dog for a walk, you must pick up their poo. Obviously, to do this, you must have something to do it with. For years, Uncle George saved up carrier bags from when he went shopping. He'd even take a few extra at the checkout. Well, he can't do that anymore because supermarkets are now charging for their bags 5p a bag. And because I'm good at maths, this is my picking up poo calculation. 1 bag equals 5p. Therefore, 1 bag equals 1 poo picked up equals 5p. If a dog does 3 poos a day, that's 15p. 15p times 7 days a week equals £1.5 a week. £1.5 times 52 weeks in a year is £54.60 to pick up a year's worth of poo. You may as well put £54.60 down the loo and flush it. Please don't do this. It really annoys plumbers. Anyway, this is far, far too much for Uncle George to spend. So now he goes to the pound shop and buys poo bags for 100 bags for £1. So that works out at 1p a poo. 3 poos a day, 3p. 3p times 7 days a week, 21p. 21p times 52 weeks in a year, £10.92. £54.60 minus £10.92 equals a massive saving of £43.68 a year. So as you can see, although Uncle George hates having to pick up poo, does anyone ever enjoy it? Doing it with pound shop bags is much cheaper. I actually gave this sum to my teacher as an example of problem solving for maths homework. She gave me a 10 out of 10 for the working out, but deducted a point for the subject matter. There is a reason I've told you all this. Although Uncle George saves money by buying the pound shop bags, he only ever takes 1 bag out with him on a walk. I'm glad he does, though, because this was how I had my first dog-talking experience. I sometimes join Uncle George on his walks. Although he is very mean with money, he's good fun and can always make me laugh. He's actually my great-uncle, my granddad's younger brother, but we all call him Uncle George. And since we lost my dad, Mum has relied on him quite a lot. Please don't feel sad for me. My dad's not dead. When I say I lost him, that's exactly what happened. We went to Hampton Court last year for my 11th birthday. Dad went into the maze and never came out. We waited for ages, but then I got hungry. Mum said, "Don't worry, your dad's always getting lost. He'll turn up. Let's go and have a McDonald's." So we did. Thing is, he didn't turn up, and to this day, we have no idea where he is. Although we did go to the police station and ask whether they'd seen him, which is all very odd. This is Mum. "Have you seen my husband?" Policeman. "What does he look like?" Mum. Tallish, thinnish, boldish. An English?" Policeman. "Wow, that's a lot of ishes. Bit vague." Mum. "Vague-ish?" Policeman. "Have you looked in the lost property box?" Mum. "What? You have a lost property box for missing husbands?" Policeman. "You'd be amazed at how many men wander off." Now, my only experience of a lost property box is at school. When you forget your PE kit, Mrs. Bull, our class teacher, nicknamed Bulldog, as she looks like one, has a really mean streak and will get us something out of the box to wear, which I'm sure contravenes the Human Rights Act. How can you get something out of the box of PE when it contains the following? A large grey t-shirt, used to be white, a pair of knitted swimming trunks. I can only presume they were lost when the owner went swimming and they got so waterlogged they fell to the bottom of the pool. That's one way to get your survival badge. A flip-flop, just the one, left foot. A mitten, left hand. And finally, a dog sled. The only way you could do PE in that lot is if you decide to take a dog for a walk whilst hopping with a cold hand. Anyway, the lost property box at the police station was very different. It was several rooms with lots of very confused men in. They were grouped into areas where they'd been found with a large sign above the door. One room was IKEA. There were a lot of men in this section. They looked very glassy-eyed and kept saying things like, "Just how many tea lights do we need? And can I have a hot dog now?" Another room was shopping malls. These men were yawning a lot and kept checking their phones. Every now and again, one would look up, nod and say, "No, it doesn't make your bum look big." And "How much?" This was said quite loudly. Another room was football grounds. There were loads in here. They seemed happier than the other two rooms. They were all wearing different coloured scarves. Now and again one would get up and start singing, "You don't know what you're doing," or "Who ate all the pies?" Some of the songs were rather rude, far too rude to repeat here. A man dressed in black featured in a lot of them. They didn't have a room for Hampton Mays, and he wasn't in any of the other rooms, so Mum and I just went home and waited. We're still waiting. We go back every week just in case he turns up. Since this happened, Uncle George came round to ours quite a lot. He would often ask if I wanted to go to the park with him and Curtis. The park is nearby, and loads of people walk their dogs there. All around the park, there are signs telling people to pick up their dog's mess, and if anyone doesn't and they get caught, they could be fined up to £1,000. £1,000! That could buy 1,000 times 100 poo bags equals 100,000 bags, which is 100,000 over 3 poos a day equals 33,333 days of picking up poo. Okay, enough of the maths. I think you get the point. It's a very big fine for something that just involves a plastic bag and a bit of bending down. So, I'm at the park with Uncle George, one poo bag in pocket, and Curtis. We'd finished our walk and were about to head home when I noticed Curtis looked a bit odd. "Uncle George, is Curtis okay?" Uncle George looked at Curtis and then tugged on his lead. "Course he is, lad. Come on, you stupid mutt, always dawdling." Curtis looked really annoyed. Yes, I know he's a dog, but he did look annoyed. His forehead wrinkled as if he was frowning. All of a sudden, I had this really weird feeling. I felt dizzy and a bit sick. Then, ping! "Stupid mutt. Did he just call me a stupid mutt?" Just appeared in my head, kind of floating around my brain. I looked around. Where had it come from? No, I couldn't work it out. Then, "Oi, down here. It's me, down here." I looked down, and Curtis was looking directly at me. He winked, a proper wink. "Who, me? You talking to me?" "Whoa, how did I do that?" It must have worked because Curtis wagged his tail. I took that as a yes and then got, "Course I am. I'm not talking to him after what he just called me." I don't think he meant it. "Whatevs. He wouldn't understand me if I did. Not the brightest button on the jacket." Curtis was looking at Uncle George. Okay, Uncle George is not the sharpest tool in the box. In fact, I've often heard people describe him as one of the following. A couple of sandwiches short of a picnic. If you gave him a penny for his thoughts, you'd get change. And my favourite, he eats soup with a fork. Obviously impossible. But he loves Curtis and would do anything for him. "Oi, I said, watch this." With that, he started to circle round and around and went to the toilet. Curtis, not Uncle George, that would have been really weird. He did the tiniest poo I have ever seen. It was like a rabbit dropping. Uncle George looked at Curtis, swore under his breath and said, "Is that it? Is that the best you could do? Hardly worth me bending down and picking it up." But seeing as Curtis had done it right underneath the sign that said £1,000 fine, he had no choice. Grumbling, he bent down, picked up the poo, tied a knot in the bag, and threw it in the bin. "Come on, you smelly old lump." He tugged at Curtis's lead, who now looked furious. "Old smelly lump, how dare he? I'll show you, lump. A great big massive—" Curtis looked directly at me, pulled his jowls up and grinned, showing his teeth. He looked really odd. He started circling again. Uncle George groaned. "Curtis, what are you doing? What are you doing?" Curtis did the biggest poo I have ever seen. Absolutely massive, humongous, gigantic. Even an elephant would have struggled to match it. Uncle George looked horrified. He'd used his one and only poo bag. What was he going to do? I tried not to laugh, but it was really funny. Uncle George was not amused. He frantically searched his pockets, hoping that a poo bag was lurking in a corner. No, nothing. Not a bag, not a tissue, nothing. What now? I couldn't help it. The look on Curtis's face combined with Uncle George's moaning and manic searching was too much. I started giggling. But you know when you start to laugh and you shouldn't, it makes you laugh even more. Like when Bobby Cartwright farted in assembly just after the head teacher said, "Let us pray." The more I tried to stop it, the more it came out, until tears were rolling down my face. Uncle George was furious. "Don't know what you're laughing at." "Sorry, Uncle George." "Sorry? Sorry? Well, lad, let's see how sorry you really are, because you're going to have to pick that up." "What? You heard me." "Why me?" "Because—" "No! That's not fair." But then adults often do things that aren't fair. And you know why? Because they're adults, and they can. Don't think that was what Curtis had planned, though. He was trying to play a trick on Uncle George, and it had backfired. He looked very guilty. Ping! Oh, no, I'm so sorry. I was trying to get him back for calling me names. Never mind that. What are you going to do about it? Well, I can't pick it up. I don't have any thumbs. Really? I hadn't noticed. No need to be sarcastic. Who knew that dogs understood sarcasm? I didn't have a choice. Uncle George was glaring at me, Curtis was trying not to look at me, and people in the park were walking past tutting. Some were looking for a stray elephant. I desperately searched my pockets. All I found was a couple of sweet wrappers and a bus ticket. Not ideal, but better than nothing. Don't suppose you got a poo bag, do you? Nah, where would I carry it? Oh, I got a couple of ideas. Oh, don't be like that. Dear reader, I'm not going to tell you what happened next, but try to imagine picking up a watermelon with a teaspoon, and I think you'll get the idea. I spent the rest of the day washing my hands and vowing never to go to the park with Uncle George or Curtis again. However, the dog-talking bit had only just begun. We'll be back tomorrow with Chapter 2.